So, welcome to our Black History Month conversations. We want to open this up by saying that Black History Month means a lot to a lot of people, especially Black and Brown people. But we want to open up the table to those of us that don't, maybe aren't familiar with Black History Month or know much about it. So, we kind of switched the tables this year, and instead of people of color speaking about Black History Month, we want to open the table up to our counterparts. So I'm going to go around the table and introduce ourselves, and we'll go from there.
So, hi everyone, I'm Lorinda Holston. I serve as our Student Athlete Development Associate here at Purdue Athletics.
And I'm Dr. Carly Dam, the head team physician at Purdue.
I should probably introduce myself. I'm Candace Britton. I am the Assistant Director of Student Services as well as Student Athlete Development. So we're going to get started with some questions for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So what does Black History Month mean to you?
Yeah, it's a hard question because I think as I've gotten older, it means more to me. And I think when I was younger, it maybe the way it came across to me wasn't, was just sort of like, it's this month and this is like the time to pay attention to things that happen past to Black people. And it just wasn't really like, it didn't hit home to me. I feel like I didn't really understand it. And the more I grow and learn and read, I think it actually has more meaning as I get older. And I'm hoping to impart that on my children a little earlier and not have them get to this age for it to start meaning something to them. But yeah, I think when I think back to like middle school and high school when we would hear about it, it just seemed like it was very superficial at the time when I learned about it. That was like slavery ended and Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, and then that was it. Yeah. And there's so much more to it, right? I feel like some of the things I think I did not learn about when I was younger were some of the accomplishments of Black Americans that just maybe have not been paid attention to or other people took credit for. And I think recently I've seen some of those, with like the Hidden Figures movie and some of those things when you're just like, wow, it would have been great to learn more about that, so that some people who weren't exposed to diverse cultures when they were young, maybe in their head had perceptions of really excellent Black people. And it's not just like Martin Luther King Jr. is the only Black person who's ever done anything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So trying to learn more and more as I get older.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So you are obviously a doctor, right? So you've gone through a lot of schooling. Mm-hmm. How many years does it take to be a doctor?
It's a lot of years. After college, you do 4 years of medical school, you do residency, which is anywhere between 3 to 6 years, and then fellowship, which is 1 to 3 years. And then we continue to learn even after that. So it's a lot of learning.
There's always learning. So through all that learning, what are some experiences that you have noticed or have experienced in school when it comes to like, as far as like Black people underrepresentation in the medical field? Like what have you experienced with that?
Yeah, it's a big problem within medicine. One of the things that, one of the statistics that has been spouted is that there's the same number of Black men in medicine percentage-wise as like the 1970s as there is now. So Black females are slowly growing. I mean, I think there still could be more representation, but Black males specifically are very underrepresented in medicine. And when you look at studies, Black male patients listen to Black male doctors. Right. It just is what it is. So whether it's the cultural, feel like there's some understanding from an education standpoint, maybe the doctors are treating them better. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think if there were more Black male physicians, the healthcare provided to Black males would actually be better. And there's data to prove that. So that's something that's really, been reflected in my experience, is not knowing a lot of Black male physicians. And the Black female physicians I've seen, I feel like they just have to excel to be taken seriously, right? Mm-hmm. They have to do more just to be considered an equal, in my experience. And I think that that's not fair, but I also see such excellence from them when they do shine, because they've had to go through so much that, some of my Black female colleagues are some of the strongest physicians that I know.
Yeah, I get that.
So speaking about that statistic, thinking about our Black student athletes here on our campus, how does that show up here for you?
Yeah, I think, there's two things. One is having representation in your physicians. So one of our lead orthopedic surgeon is a Black male, which I think is great. And I think he interacts a lot with our athletes. And I think that's really helpful. Mm-hmm. But I think the second part is having any physician providing care being culturally competent, right?
Right.
And being understanding that people come from different experiences, that their motivations may be different, that the way they interpret what you say may be different.
Right.
And so I hope that I provide that, you know, and the other physicians here, that even if you don't look like the person you're providing care to, you at least try to understand where they came from and not make assumptions and not, you know, I mean, not make assumptions about what their major is going to be, not make assumptions of what their family's like. We have student athletes who have very different, you know, experiences from home, and it's not all based on their skin color. There's a lot of other factors that go into that. So not assuming and just talking to them and asking if you have a question, just asking.
Yeah.
So earlier we spoke about, or you spoke about, learning specifically about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, slavery, things of that nature. Now that you've grown and kind of fallen into Black History Month, what are some, I guess, heroes that you kind of look up to now? Or sheroes.
Sheroes, love it.
Sheroes,
Yeah, again, a lot of these are not common names, but more reading stories about, you know, a Black female who is very instrumental in developing the COVID vaccine, right? That people don't hear about that.
Yeah.
You know, just those people that aren't going to get a lot of accolades, but are very important and have probably, you know, faced some adversity along the way and just gotten through it. And really, maybe that's allowed them to think outside the box and really be better at what they do, you know, and excel.
Why do you think it's important to educate Black youth, especially coming through the medical field? You said there's not a lot. So why do you think it's important to educate Black youth in the medical field? And what are some ways do you think that we could go forward and do that?
Yeah, you know, there's not a lot of diversity within sports medicine. And when I say sports medicine, that can include athletic trainers, physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, dietitians, you know, there's a lot of different fields involved that we all work together. And so some of this is, you know, you can't wait till someone's a senior in college to try to reach out to them and educate them about the field. People have chosen their path, you know, a lot of times. And so a lot of this comes down to high school or even middle school kids and teaching them what is an athletic trainer. You know, some people get through high school. Some high schools don't have an athletic trainer. They don't even know what one is. How can you decide that's what you want to be if you don't even know the field exists? So some of that is outreach and trying to explain to young people, you know, here are the fields and this is why you can do it. This is why we love our jobs. We're passionate about them. And this is something we want you to come into and giving them that experience to see what they do. And it's sports medicine is so much fun. I think that if people could really understand what we do, I think there's a lot of people who'd be interested in it from a lot of different backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a program or something that youth can go to or attend or maybe know about or something like that?
I know at Purdue we're working with our summer program group to try to get some exposure into the high school levels and bring them on campus and let them see what we do. Because also, you know, who doesn't want to come to Mackey Arena and see, you know, the basketball team practice? I mean, it's just such a fun experience for young people to see. So that's what we're doing here. But there are some other programs in the country, but I think there could be more. I mean, again, there's Black Men in White Coats is a group. There's Black Women in White Coats, Black Women in Medicine. There's a lot of like Twitter follows that you could do to learn more about it. So I think people, if they're interested, you know, if you start looking, you will find something.
So what are your thoughts on ways that we can grow together from this point?
Yeah. I think it's a lot of listening, which, you know, I am a very outgoing person. I speak a lot. I love talking about, you know, all of us trying to take that time to say, I need to listen. I need to make sure I'm not assuming I know what other people think. Having those, you know, uncomfortable conversations in a safe place where you feel okay saying something saying, you know, that this might not sound great, but this is what either I've been taught or how I feel. And what do you think about that? You know, and because you're not going to learn if you just keep those thoughts inside. But I think it's just having those conversations and then listening to what other people have to say.
Yeah, I agree.
So again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here, taking the time to speak with us today. It's really great to really get to start some of these conversations in spaces like this. So I know you talked a little bit about having those uncomfortable conversations across difference, and I think we do need a lot of that. We need a lot of listening that we kind of talked about here today. So I hope this is a beginning to a whole new conversation for just Purdue athletics and beyond.
I appreciate you ladies having me. It's always nice to see you.
Absolutely.